All right, good morning. Welcome to Civics Sundays. My name's Tom Christie. Again, we're explain what we do here on Sundays. We're trying to learn how civics works, not just government, but the whole community. Salvation Army, government, everything. So this morning we do have a government official with us, Assemblyman Angelo Morinello. And our process here on civics is that we have a team of people. So we have 5 city councilmen in Niagara Falls. They're the team. There's an election coming up, and we hope those people, are successful in whatever they're pursuing, but they're not on the team yet. So we're working with the team that's there. There's an assemblyman. He's the only assemblyman we have, and I mean that in a positive way. So he's on our team. So it's fantastic that he's coming here to answer questions, and he's one of the people that never doesn't answer questions, and right away and immediately, and says, I don't know if he doesn't know, and then goes to try and find something. So that certainly doesn't make him a perfect human being, which he would say, and it doesn't make him a horrible human being, which I'll say. So we're just very glad that he's participating in anything. So without further ado, this morning we have Assemblyman Angelo Morinello with us. You can always jump in with questions if you like. We'll talk for a whole hour if you don't. So if you have anything we'd rather talk about, please join in. Otherwise, Angelo, because that's what everyone calls you. I like to call you Assemblyman because it's a deference, but you're really Angelo to everybody I know.
Well, that or the judge is a more of a nickname, okay? Because for 14 years, I think and most people know, I did sit on the court in Niagara Falls.
Well, most people don't know. What's your career?
Oh, all right, my career is college, high school, college. First day of law school, I got drafted in 1968, September 5th, which is
Vietnam.
Birthday, Vietnam. It was right after Tet of 68, where there was a truce that was called for 24 hours to honor the Vietnamese holiday. But it was a ruse because then they attacked the American bases and we lost a lot of men. So I got drafted out of law school, went in, didn't go to, wasn't an officer, went to advanced infantry training at Fort Polk, ended up front lines combat Vietnam. I was the radio telephone operator. Now you have a little cell phone you use. Back then we had that 25-pounder, which was on our back with the big antennas. Came out, went to law school, began practicing law, worked in the family business as in-house counsel for a period of time. And after, I believe it was 28 years of practicing law, I saw a potential, an opening coming up in Niagara Falls City Court. I ran, I was successful. I was there for 14 years. And the only reason it was only 14 was I aged out. There's an age, unless you're Supreme Court, for extensions. So after that, I just wasn't ready. I had not decided it was time for me to stop giving service. And I ran for the assembly and I was successful, and I am in my 3rd term now. And next year will be another election, and my intentions are to continue.
Thank you. Hey, what does city court do? Who goes to city court? I'm not familiar with the levels of courts, but what does Niagara Falls City Court get?
All right. First of all, city court judges, because of the judiciary law, can be elevated to county court level and family court level. But predominantly, city court is similar to town courts, except for the ability to handle felony arraignments. It is almost the first instance of individuals having interaction with a court. They do civil, they do code violations, they do evictions, and predominantly criminal court. Now,
when they arraign a gunshot person or a prostitute at 4 a.m, is that they call city court, or does that go somewhere else?
No, it would be city court. But see, the difference is this: city courts, we have a jail. So what happens is they can hold those that are arrested overnight in our facility, because you cannot send someone to the county jail until they've been arraigned. Town courts do not have their own jails. Therefore, they get called a lot more in the middle of the night, only so that they can be transported to the county facility.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. Now, your assembly district is not.
All right, if I may interrupt, city court, we also have what we call quality of life courts. We have drug court, mental health court, domestic violence court. And for 10 years, I was the designated domestic violence judge on those veins. So now they also with the changes in the law, the bail law and the raise the age, they have arraignment obligations, but then those cases are moved to different districts or factions within the criminal justice system.
Right. So thank you. Your assembly seat includes the entire city of Niagara Falls, but it's more than that too. How big is it?
Well, first of all, what they did in the last redistricting was they approximated about 146,000 residents within an assembly district based upon the population. But my district includes 5 towns and 1.5 cities. The city of Niagara Falls, half of the city of North Tonawanda. I have the towns of Lewiston, Niagara, Wheatfield, Cambria, and the town of Grand Island in Erie County. So it's a pretty diverse area. And my obligations are to all of the areas, the needs of all the constituents within those areas, the school districts within those areas, the supervisors within those areas. So it's more expansive than just Niagara Falls itself. Although Niagara Falls is the hub and the center core. So, I've got to look at that as a district for everyone's betterment.
And they reapportion every 10 years, which is next, right? So you'll run on different lines next time, right?
Well, different district lines, okay? We don't know what they're going to be. But I don't see ours changing too much, mainly because it's been pretty much the same historically from all of my predecessors. And what has happened that sometimes it's all of Niagara County and nothing outside. And there's discussions as to whether or not they will move mine to the town of Porter and Wilson, removing the town of Grand Island. But it's up in the air, but I still look at servicing whatever is there.
Right, right. So as an assemblyman, what are the levels of government? We know city and state. So what do you do? What's your role as a assemblyman for the city? Or
the technical roles are preparing state budgets, legislation, all things at a state level. However, what people fail to realize is, as an assembly member, you are the people's representative. We're considered the people's house. My function that I view most importantly is taking care of my constituents with issues. We can break through log jams on liquor licenses at times. I believe my office, and they're compiling the full list, but I believe it was over 600 to 700 people that we assisted in getting their unemployment. We've helped individuals with state pensions. So whatever problem comes up, now we can't represent anybody legally. We can't give legal advice, but whatever assistance is needed, we just try and break through the log jams. And I have an incredible staff. And truthfully, my staff makes me look like I know what I'm doing. Okay, I mean, they take care of everything. So,
in Albany, because you're kind of a diverse thing. You're in Albany half a week, and you're here half a week. You're probably the ranking minority member on something, because the Republicans are in the minority. You're a ranking member of what?
I'm the ranking member on codes. I would rank rules, ways and means, and then codes is probably the most important, because codes deals with any and all changes in the laws and anything dealing with a penalty. So I have a committee, a minority committee, and then we get a agenda usually on Fridays, but because session won't start till Wednesday of next week, it'll probably come on Monday. And then I analyze, I break down, I summarize, then I send notes to all my committee members to prepare for what's called a pre-codes, where we sit and we discuss by Zoom. And then we go to the codes meeting, so we're more focused and we can zero in on any issues that we have, any questions, anything we want to put on the record.
Well, so I didn't even mean to ask you any of this, and I don't want to because I care about Niagara Falls, but what's going on? That must all come through your committee of the bail, no bail, the criminal justice reform.
Yes.
It must be an intense time in the codes committee these days.
Well, let me tell you, one of the things that for 3 years before the bail reform came in, there was no consideration on domestic violence. So the way they had written it, it was basically if someone, a neighbor or an individual finally had the courage, a victim, to call, and the police had to intervene. Normally, they would hold the person overnight until the following morning arraignment for a cooling off period. The original bail reform had it where they would release them immediately to go back to the person that was the abused. So I finally was able, after it passed, to talk to Jeffrey Aubrey, who was the sponsor of the bill. And now we do have a carve out for domestic violence. There's discussions on other carve outs because we're seeing that, yes, bail reform needed to be analyzed. The difficulty became, it was kind of like one of those, we'll figure it out after we pass it and read it. And it has to be done, just like criminal justice reform and discovery. There's always a time to review. The difficulty I'm finding, although I've been very successful because of my approach, and I am listened to by the majority, but for the most part, they do not have those that are experts in fields that are being part of the process, the learning process. And this is why we do our meetings or our floor debates, to put things on the record so that we can come forth with some possible amendments to make it meaningful. It's like there's a focus, or the focus is never that clear, and that is the problem. A lot of times it's just for grandstanding, it's to go back to your constituents. I got a bill passed, but the true worth of it is, let's make it work. Let's make it work for the people. Let's not have to go back and keep amending and wasting time and dollars.
But codes, again, seems to highlight the diversity of the state. There's New York City, and then there's everybody else. You are from Niagara Falls, and there's a New York City legal situation, which is probably quite different in big city, small city. You must butt heads on that a lot. The logic of, we're not a city of 8 million. You are. Your voice must be tough down there.
Well, it is, but it isn't. And I'll tell you why. As the judge, I had so much training statewide. As the domestic violence, we did a lot of training. We did training at the institute out of in White Plains, the Judicial Institute. I have also coupled with a lot of the members, and the majority members out of New York. And we've got this sort of unwritten agreement that we need to be able to listen and understand the needs of our respective districts, and then try and respect those members whose positions may be somewhat different, but in need of their district, and then attempt to modify it so that we can adjust their needs and not hinder our needs. So it's a hands-on, cross the aisle process that I find very rewarding,
So that's a great retrospect of the state and the vast, territory an assemblyman has to deal with. Let's go right to Niagara Falls, though, because I want to focus all of the civic stuff on one place so that we learn something about one place, like Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's Niagara Falls. Everybody in the world knows it. So I'll ask you this now, and you can answer at the end of the show or never, because I haven't gotten an answer yet. What do you think the prime focus for the city of Niagara Falls should be for the rest of our lives? I mean, what will make it,
I would ask, all right, I would ask the residents to not look at everything with blinders, but look at it in a bigger perspective. I would ask the residents to look at a glass not half empty, but half full. Tom, we went through 12 years of an administration that really and truly had nothing showing for the progress. At one point they built parks, but they never focused on the neighborhoods. They did not engage with the community. They did not engage with other elected officials. They had $170 million of money from the casino, but none of it seemed to work its way to develop the downtown area. Now, 2 weeks ago when I was on, I was at, you asked me a question and I talked about, and we're dealing with just Niagara Falls. You got to have a hub. Okay? And if you have a strong hub to get the spokes out to the wheel. Now, one of the comments that somebody typed was the people are the spokes. Okay. Yes, they are. But what we have to remember is those spokes go to a location where those people live. Now, we need to look at the city as a whole. But if we don't have a solid downtown core, which is the central district, since Mayor Restaino has gotten in and the state has started to look at other areas, for example, they just announced this week that the 10 projects of the $10 million that was awarded to Niagara Falls. Now, that's not the $10 million for the Pine Avenue and the portions of Main Street and Portage Road. What they're doing is focusing on now, which is we need to do this, and Mayor Restaino has been doing it. Take different districts and put money into those districts. So you will see Main Street, that corridor, which is the north end, which goes to the Underground Railroad, which was another state funded along with some federal money and other grants, okay, being expanded and strengthening. And that is still one of the city core districts that needs to be improved. So we're creating that district. Niagara Street has had a lot of progress, but unfortunately, the untimely death of Ron Andalou has sort of stalled that. But there is improvements on Niagara Street. Some years ago, we were going to get Syrian refugees. The suggestion was put them on 18th Street and create a community for them. There are vacant buildings the city owns that have upper floors that can be that are residences or were with storefronts on the bottom. So I think that we need to look at different areas and have projects within those areas that support the whole. So, but we're spinning back to, because we know how this came up. So go on, you have a question.
I don't know that I have a question, but I've been waiting 40 years for the answer you just gave, which is look at it okay, and it'll get better. I don't think, I talk to people now in their 30s and 40s. I don't think they want to wait any longer. How much longer are we going to wait for? And what are we waiting for?
Yeah, I never said that. I didn't say we have to wait. What I said was we're starting the process. Okay.
We're starting the process.
Well, yeah, but look at the failed government. I mean, think about this.
I'm in a concrete basement. If I bang my head against this wall, it will break my skull. Yeah. I can't wait any longer for this process. We've been starting a process for 40 years. Now, I know you keep mentioning one mayor's name, and I just get passionate about this. Well, but if it was 3 years ago, we'd mention another mayor's name. And if it was 14 years ago, we'd mention another mayor's name. Everybody mentioned somebody's name. I don't care about the names. It never changes. Now, I'm not looking at it half empty. You know, within 12 hours of that announcement of the state park, $46 million, it seems to, we still don't know what's going on. There was a shooting, so somebody's dead. And when is that going to end? And, I mean, this is the stuff I hear from other people of how long will it take? Well, and I love you. I'm not even yelling at you. I love you.
Well, listen, let's go to the criminal justice reform. Okay. Police's hands have been tied. Okay. They want no consequences for the responsibility of your actions. All right. So consequently, what has happened is it's gotten out of hand. Now they're looking at those that were those forcing bail reform are realizing maybe we need to adjust a little bit more. Now, my mantra and my battle cry has been the breakdown of the family, the lack of teaching the youth there are consequences to actions. You have to be responsible for the consequences of your actions. We have poverty. But what's happening now, and you say, well, we're banging our head. No, I see progress. Let's take the old Board of Education Administration building on 6th and Ferry. Originally, the concept, and it was a closed door process, was going to be an expansion of the methadone. We got involved. We moved the methadone back to Trot and just expanded it there. What did we do? We put in BOCES. We brought BOCES from the community college area out in Sanborn into the city. They have one of the finest nursing programs there. Okay. They have carpentry, they have machining, and they have welding there in the city. The problem is we're trying to get people to come in, but we've improved the workforce development, and workforce development will have these people prepared for employment. Okay, so now you've got a way out of poverty. There is a program that the Niagara Falls High School, Mark Laurie, has started. And we went to the first graduation. 17 high school students received their OSHA cards from classrooms at Labor's Local 91. These kids are ready to go and get a job immediately after high school. Mark is focusing on, and if we didn't have the pandemic, the split in schools would have been done, where they're going to have one school with kids up to a certain grade. And we're going to start in third grade, showing them the benefits of trades, teaching them, bringing in instructors to talk to them about the importance, and not that if the college is the only way and these kids drop out because, well, I'm not going to college. So we're preparing a path forward. There is progress, okay? But that's why I said people need to take their blinders off to see the progress that has occurred. Can I go another? Why are you smiling?
You have to, because I'm going to hit my head against this wall. No, go ahead. Go ahead. You said we were going to.
I've given you some positive changes.
Okay, but here's my question though. You come from a family business, and any business has to do project management, which is the first thing has to be done before the second thing, before the third.
Right.
You are outlining things that need to happen and successes that are going on. But if you were going to build a city, which you have a hand in as an assemblyman, what would be the first thing that is the most important thing to do in the city of Niagara Falls? The first, so that we can all get behind it and do that first thing before we do the second thing. What would be the first thing? And let me ask this before we start that. What do you think the Falls can become? And shortly, let's say in the next 10 years, do you think it could be, let me be fantastic. Do you think it should be a city of 1 million people? What should the Falls be 10 years from now? And then what's the first step to get there?
I believe this. Niagara Falls is a small city with a major attraction. And I think we need to stop trying to be who we're not. Stop trying to bring in these pie in the sky, grandiose projects that fail. Okay, we need to do a scale, projects of scale. Now, unfortunately, because of a vacuum in the leadership of USA Niagara for a number of years, it stalled. Now we have Anthony Villardo. Pandemic slowed it up, but the state has funded to go forward to buy Smoke and Joe's property, and they're putting them out for private development. Public-private leadership. Getting back to your original question, the big attraction we have is Niagara Falls, the park, okay? And we are a region. So it's focus on what we have and improve upon it, not keep wishing. Remember, now, I don't know if you're old enough, you may be too young to remember thriving downtown Niagara Falls, Old Falls Street, okay? Jammed. Every single facility was something small, a small restaurant, a small tavern. There were souvenir shops, but it was thriving. When it was all torn down and nothing came up is when we lost that momentum to continue to improve. But I don't think Niagara Falls will ever be 1 million people. I think what we have is we should have the focus on bringing a couple things. Number one, we need to get some clean energy. Now, people don't understand that in the old Power City building, which is the old, I believe it was the Marine Midland Bank, across from the casino, there is a business in there that Al Panessa Jr. is doing. They have one floor, they're doing a second floor and a revamp. They will have about 60 white collar employees in there, clean industry, okay? So focusing on things of that nature that don't impact the environment, but they're happening. See, the point I said about the blinders is let's look what has happened in the last couple of years and then see that we are starting to get some traction. Not that nothing has happened, because when you keep saying nothing is, not you, Tom, I mean people, that nothing is happening, people become discouraged and then they become despondent and then they become critical rather than being part of it. There's things happening in the North End. There's things happening in Highland Avenue. We're working to redivert some federal funds on Highland Avenue for affordable housing right on Highland Avenue across from the, I'm trying to remember the plant there now, okay? And they just expanded. So if we start looking at areas, and so once we have a positive, you can build off of that positive in that community. We have the housing authority. Okay? Their facilities are phenomenal. So now we're going to move out of rentals into owner-occupied homes in that vicinity. So yes, there's that. There's the Pine Avenue district now. The focus is, and the money is there to improve that. And if you improve something center, like they're looking at the market, now you can improve the neighborhoods around it. When you say we've been waiting, and I keep repeating, but if you got to look at, we're at a starting point. Yeah, it was failed. Nothing happened. People weren't doing anything. But now there is, so let's look at what is there and help. Let's get people to just take the garbage off their front porches. Let's get people to just clean up their front yard to give you a better feel of what our city really is internally.
So I'm not hearing something. I didn't hear an answer to what our number one goal for the falls is. What's our industry? What's our number one thing that we tell people, that we put on the brochure, we blast from the highest hilltops? Niagara Falls is what?
Niagara Falls is a tourist destination.
No one says that. That is, yes, I want to hear that, but that is not the official, but that's not official. Nobody says that.
Well, listen, John Percy has been saying it, and they
John
Percy's
have nothing. I mean, I don't mean nothing, but John Percy, that's his job to say that. The mayor hasn't said it. The city has not declared it. It is not a declared. Empire State Development has not declared it. The governor has not declared it.
Okay.
John Percy works in that business. Of course, he's going to say it. Sorry.
Well,
I love you. You're my.
I will be strong enough to tell you. Okay, we used to be industry. Industry's gone from this area. Okay, they did a lot of damage, even though whether they realized it or not, and they've paid their price. We've cleaned up the river. We've cleaned up Lake Ontario. We've cleaned up the fishing. Okay, so but let's not kid each other. We are a tourist destination, so let's start focusing. And that's what I said. If you remember what I said to start out, Niagara Falls is a small city with a big attraction. That attraction is the falls, and it's the area around the falls. It's the expansion. It's the state finally coming to the realization of the mistakes of Robert Moses. Remove the parkway. That's number one, okay? So reimagine the gorge. We can be ecotourism, and that's what we're focusing on. We have a healthy location, and then we are trying to start to expand upon that and capitalize. Ralph Wilson Foundation put $8 million into the project that is the controversy, okay? Because the naming was wrong, but we'll get to that in a minute. But the reason Ralph Wilson got involved was their idea is revamping all the waterfronts. And they put money into Buffalo, but they put money here because of the Riverway Trail, which does going in one direction, will get into Buffalo, biking, hiking, and walking. The other direction, it's going to Fort Niagara, but that trail is going to be across New York State. And what is it? It's an environmentally safe outdoor adventure for individuals. Niagara Falls right now, because we've capitalized on that concept, maybe not the tourist destination, and I agree with you, okay? I think nobody has the courage to say, listen, okay, we're not industry anymore. All right. So we need some clean energy. I mean, clean projects. All right. More in tune with the diverse ways of doing business nowadays. Okay. And we need to focus on what is there. So, you know, we can all criticize the state, but what they did after the New York Times called the governor out on the shoddy condition of the Niagara Reservation, they put in the ability and the money to clean it up and make it a first-class attraction. And anybody who has not gone to Goat Island recently, not walked the trails, not walked the trail along what used to be Whirlpool, which was rebuilt, okay? They're doing themselves a disservice because this is where the draw is going to be. It's going to be down in that area. And what the state has done, whether people like it or not, there was a barrier at the end of Old Fall Street. They had non-native trees. They had a wall. And so it was like another world. They have removed all of that. So you can see the city from the park and you can see the park from the city. They have just put a new entrance in from parts of the old parkway into what was the old Cochin property. So people now, if they're just walking, they can walk right into the city from that location. That is almost complete. And if anybody hasn't gone to see it, shame on them. If anybody hasn't gone down and seen the improvements, shame on them. If they haven't gone and looked at the gorge and walked the gorge and walked the trails and gone down to the gorge, shame on them, Tom.
So I'm loving this. Thank you so much. This isn't really the focus of everyone. And if we can get behind all that, that's something we can all get behind.
Yeah.
So if that's the thing, money's no object. So there's more money than God to spend from the state.
Right.
What would we worry about $10 million for Pine Avenue for when the 3 blocks of Old Fall Street between the casino and the park are a bombs out zone? There are vacant buildings owned by you guys, owned by the state. Why aren't those pizza joints? Why aren't they strip joints? Why aren't they any joints? Why are they vacant?
Well,
and again, 40 years, they haven't become vacant yesterday. And you're going to tell me they might not be vacant a year from now. Okay, I want to believe in something, but that's where I'd like to see it because I can't get up to Main Street until I get past the vacancy.
Okay, so
and I'm a tourist. I'm talking of a tourist. I'm from Sweden and I just landed at the gates.
You're speaking my language, okay? But here's what happened. For years, the property was undervalued and a businessman who had no desire to help the city purchased a lot of those properties and sat on them. They paid his taxes on them, so we couldn't do anything to him, okay? So therefore—
Can't we always do something to somebody though? No. We could always do something to somebody.
Well, to go through a process, okay, of eminent domain.
Would it take 40 years?
40 years.
That's what we've been waiting. We've been waiting 40 years.
But this person didn't own them, okay? So, but there was some misguided development that got stalled. The Rainbow Mall design is the worst design in the world. I call that a Chinese wall, because if you're on the Falls side of the Rainbow Mall and you're on 2nd Street, in order to get up the street, you got to go around it. The plan now is, and I'm telling you, there is a great plan. COVID stalled it. The other thing that delayed everything was—
Wait, what's the plan? What's the plan? I want to get—
right. What the plan is this. The proposals are as follows. Community College would like to take a little more of the Rainbow Mall over. And there is going to be very soon RFPs for the remainder of the mall. Okay. One of my suggestions has been to move the Aerospace Museum from the airport into the mall. So now you have another attraction for people to do when they're in town. That may be worked on. Okay. It's being worked on, Tom. I mean, you got to bring things in. We can't just tear down the Rainbow Mall.
But it's still a wall. Why can't you tear it down? It's still a wall if you put another thing in there. It's still a wall.
Here's what they're going to do. They're going to put a cut through. And during that—
Oh, well, you didn't say that. You didn't say that.
I didn't get to it. You're cutting me off. I've got a whole process. If I don't go through the process, people aren't going to understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. And there is a process in government. I mean, you and I both know that. There has to be a concept, an idea. They have to look at it. They have to figure out the funding. They need analysts to come in. So the biggest thing is they're going to put a cut through there so that no matter where you're at, it's easier. And during that cut through is going to be some storefronts. It would have been done, it would have been out, but because of the pandemic, we're a year behind. My goal, and I've been harping on this since I could speak. When I'm on the bench, I can't talk. You know that, okay? But since is this, they finally got that old fun center, which was the Pleasure Dome, back from that businessman. My focus on that, and I think it's getting some traction, is to tear the damn building down because it is not practical, and put a center of community in there, similar to Old St. Augustine, Florida. St. Augustine, okay? And what it is it's a walkable streets, no traffic in it, storefronts, restaurants with living up above. So now when somebody says, where's the center? Well, we've got that center. Hopefully we'll have a Main Street center now with the new announcement of where the 10 million is going to go. So yes, I don't disagree with you. I've been frustrated. It's been almost 60 years since they tore everything down, okay? I mean, when I lived in my grandfather's house when I was young, and we used to get calls at 11 o'clock at night for people out of beer on Old Fall Street. So I might have been 7 years old. I would get up with my uncles and I'd go, they'd load a truck and I'd go down. So here's a 7-year-old kid on Old Fall Street at midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning looking at the activity. Okay? And not one place was a gigantic cavernous building. Okay, they were all manageable. They were places that people earned great livings. And what was the basis? That was all tourism. Yes, the other employment when we were up to 110,000 people, and that was when we had all the chemical plants and all the other plants going. They're gone. All right, and they're not going to come back. Because truthfully, I will fight to the death to not allow any additional pollution and any additional runoffs into the Niagara River, into Lake Ontario. Okay, so
yeah, I guess I'm going back to the old, which should be Republican and Democratic principles here of free enterprise or state-driven economic development. And back in the 80s, it would have been the Democrats who wanted the government to control everything and the Republicans to have the free market and entrepreneurs control everything. But we fast forward now and the Rainbow Center is controlled by the state. And the state's going to do all this. And the state, we're waiting on the state. Why don't we give it away to a developer and make him do it? He'll have it done in 2 weeks.
Hold on. Here was the difficulty, and I started to say it. They were pushing for, and it was political decisions for that Wonder Falls. They stopped somebody else from doing a splash park. Without naming names, and I'm not going to go into it, that was a failed project for 5 years. Day one, it was doomed to failure because there was no way that they could amortize the loan, the loan that was necessary. You know, when you go for financing, and you know this, it's like a home mortgage. All right, I want $1 million mortgage, but you earn $50,000 a year. You don't have the ability to pay. All right, but these were all paybacks for donations to Albany. So now it took up until last year. Okay, I'm trying to think of what year I'm in now because of the pandemic put us back. Okay, but finally last year they pulled the plug. They had the courage to pull the plug. So now there's a new focus on it. Okay, now if they had given the developer that wanted that project, there would have been a splash park in there. But politically, that person wasn't a favored son. We're getting away from that now.
Are we?
So, yeah, are we? Listen.
I don't think, well, King Tut had a favored son. I mean, we'll never get away from it. I'm not trying to get rid of corruption or favored son. No. I'm just trying to build the Rainbow Mall. I mean, give it away. but hold somebody accountable.
Well,
This used to be the Republicans used to love this. Give it to a developer and make him do it. Or
well,
her
now
do it.
think about this. They've given most of Third Street to TM Montante, who has a proven record as a developer. They've turned it over to him, and he's working on all of those buildings on Third Street. Now, there's been acrimony about why Third Street hasn't developed. I can go through the dollar numbers of how much state money was given without the need to pay back to Third Street businesses and projects, okay? But here's one of the difficulties we had. Niagara Street, 6 lanes of traffic. And when you look across Niagara Street, what do you see? You see a vacant lot on the corner. You see an empty bank building, okay? And you see 6 lanes of traffic, and you see the Canadian Bridge, okay? Or the border. So people would get to that point and they would look. If you had a carriage with a baby, or you were in a wheelchair, you wouldn't venture past that. The state is reimagining, and here's what they're doing. The bids went out. What month? We're in May. The end of June 22nd, the bids went out to reimagine John Daly Boulevard and Main Street and Niagara Street. Niagara Street, well, they're going to remove the median. They're going to give it a haircut. They're going to put some bike lanes in so that it doesn't become a super highway through the city to Canada, but it's going to become more of a city type road. But the benefit will be people will not be intimidated to move up Third Street where the improvements are going to be. Okay?
So sorry to interrupt, but how do I know all this other than talking to you on a Sunday out of your good heart to come on and talk? I mean, is there a plan that tells me this? Because there was a master plan published in 2009, doesn't seem to have been followed. There was one in 99, wasn't followed. There was one in 89, wasn't followed. Where do I read that, hey, hold the line, get your blinders off because this is what's coming? I don't see it. Where can I find this?
I'm going to take a little bit of credit because 5 years ago when I first got elected, I met with the DOT and started on the Niagara Street need to give it a haircut. It was scoped. Okay, and those scopings and the traffic studies, they don't happen overnight. But this isn't, Tom, I'm going to do this. It's being done. The bids are out on it, okay? So that's one of the things that happened.
But so where do I go read and link and send people to, hey, this is what it's going to look like in 5 years? I can wait 5 years if I know.
No, it's going to happen within a year, and I believe.
But it's been 3 years in the works. I mean, so it's been 5 years. Yeah. But how? It's all a mystery. I ask anybody, they don't know.
Well, I'm
asking you, and you know.
I know because I'm involved. I'm the one who's pushing it. My vision and view is based upon my age, my experience, and what I see. It's my mantra of we're a small city with a big attraction. Let's capitalize on that attraction. Let's look at what has been done to help. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this, and you mentioned one of them. If people keep complaining about the state not doing enough in the city, let the state take over the city. Let's just give it to the state.
Right. Okay? I would say get rid of it. Make us a ward of the state. Get rid of the mayor and the council. Sure. Well, you control everything anyway. I'm for that.
Well, what I'm really getting at is this, okay? We have to look at what they are doing to help us move forward within the city itself. Now, if we want them to continue to control, then give them the city. If not, accept the help they've got out there. And you, as our elected local officials, figure out a way to expand upon it to benefit the tax base, to benefit our citizens. And that's what I think has to happen. We need to not have blinders. We need to be able to focus, okay? And I think that, unfortunately, because of everything being stalled so long, people are too anxious. They want it done tomorrow. But if we can look at the progress in the last 17 months, changes in department heads at City Hall with no association or affiliations with any locals that they need to protect. The departments within the city have all new heads. And heads are rolling over there. There's a lot of acrimony within City Hall because people are being forced to do their job, to think outside the box, to be responsible for what actions you have. Code enforcement, they're getting really active because they now have the ability to be moving forward. What I can't go into any other political candidates, but one political candidate has this concept for code enforcement to bring into the courtroom, should that person be successful, okay? The agencies that provide assistance to those who cannot afford, we have different agencies that can provide funds for home improvement. The mayor just announced one of his projects for that, and there's money to help people who can't afford to fix up the outside of their homes. So if you go to code enforcement in city court and you have a violation, but you don't have the money, there'll be somebody right there to help you go through the process and focus on what can be done, okay, to help you get the funds to increase that. What does that do? It gives us city pride, okay? So maybe that's a good word, city pride. Individuals need to start having city pride. They have to be proud of go on, Tom.
Well, so how do we work together then to build this plan? I love everything you're describing, but I'm hearing it for the first time. You've known it for 5 years, so it's no surprise to you. The Rainbow Mall, never heard any of these plans. A real city would already have these things in print, ready to roll out and say, on June 4th, 2023, Niagara Street will look like this. The Rainbow Mall will look like this. This will be happening next. Then people get to have some pride. But it is a mystery because you know why? Because a lot of it never happens.
Well, so, but I can assure you. How can we work
towards that though? How can
I can assure you everything that I mentioned to you is happening. Now, until they have the final plan, it's hard to put it out. Okay. But
why? Why?
Because it's not formulated just yet. We have
but you know what? There's a lot of people that could help formulate it and get behind it. Right? Why wait till it's fully baked? Put it out when people are still thinking.
Tom, okay, listen, we have a representative form of government. Okay. Yeah. We work through our elected officials. Okay. Yeah. You've been kind enough to tell people that I work. Okay.
Yes.
And a lot of what's happening it's my pushing, but it's still in the scoping, unfortunately. Okay. That the way process works, even in a business, let's take a business. If you've got a plan for an expansion, until you have all your ducks in a row, you don't go and say, I have a plan for expansion. But I'm willing, and I always have been willing to talk about what I am working on, what I am pushing for the region. You know, just to redirect from Niagara Falls for a second. On Friday morning, I met with the new operator for Fantasy Island on Grand Island. Okay, that's within my district, so I have to focus on it. That's going to happen. Now, is he ready to tell the people exactly what buildings he's going to put in there? No. His focus is, I'm going to start with the splash park, and I would hope to have it by July 4th. And then I've got to do a lot of work on the rest of the park, but I want to show the progress. So, but that was a little while in the initial stages. He had to work a lease with the current owners. He had to work the financing. He had to make it worthwhile. 3rd Street in Niagara Falls. Once they were able to get those buildings from that businessman, within a year, the RFPs came out. Within 1 year, they have a preferred developer, TM Montante. They have proven their worth in the area. So they are now out trying to figure out and get individuals for the projects, but they are the preferred developer. They will not sit on these properties whatsoever. So that'll be that one section. Think about this, that redoing Whirlpool. Whirlpool was probably the worst street in the entire world, okay? That is now reimagined. It is completed. That is now coming right into the upper ends of 3rd Street. You can spin off in different areas. The focus is now taking away from, we got to go to Canada, to more ability to be in the city. I find fault with a lot of things the state did, but I was not in office at the time. Number one, when they redid the parkway along the river, okay, that should have not have been a direct line into the parking lot of the state, okay? And I've said that a million times. That should have stopped at the roundabout and brought you into the city and then had different routes into the falls, okay? But there wasn't enough screaming on that one. Now, if we had had the screaming on that when they saw it happen, or if I was in office at the time, I would have let you know, the people know what's going on. There should have been more outcry for that than there is for the interpretation center that brought us, you and I, together on the radio, okay? So I don't disagree. The problem is whoever's in office needs to be open enough and willing enough to talk. Now, I'm giving you how I look at it in my perspective. Somebody may oppose. I don't mind it. I'll listen, okay? But there's also the realities of the process, and everything has a process. Civics has a process. Elections have a process. We need to adjust periodically. But I see that, listen, at my age and my station in life, okay, I should be traveling right now. All right. Well, wherever I can because of it. But my focus is this. I will give all my energy for as long as I can to make sure that these move forward, to make sure that people understand what is going on. When I have something that I can reveal, I will reveal it. Okay. Sometimes I'm starting to be part of the discussions. Now, on some of the state park stuff, I met with the commissioner. Because I reached out, the commissioner of parks met with me this week. And I got a better understanding of that building that began the controversy between you and I. Okay. I can reach out.
Controversy.
Not between you and I. I don't mean you and I as individuals. Okay. But that brought us to this point this morning, which I'm really relishing, and I appreciate this type of a format. Okay. Because it allows me to express, all right, what I see and what I feel. Now, maybe I have a misvision, so somebody can educate me. But we can't just always think about, if your idea is different than mine, that we got to fight. Let's sit down and talk.
No, but I think specifically on the park, I didn't really want to have to go there, but that when there's secrecy, we get a $25 million welcome center a mile from John Percy's $4 million welcome center, 100 feet from a $46 million welcome center. Whatever the names are going to be, take the names off welcome center. That's what happens over the course of 5 to 10 years when it's a secret.
Well, here's what happened. Here's how I look at it, okay? And this was my complaint and my position with the commissioner, all right? That number one, they should have given, now they claim they gave a lot of thought to the name, but they should have talked more about the purpose. The purpose is not to capitalize on keeping people there and outside the city, because that is right at the new entrance with no barriers into the city. Okay. And if you've been down, have you seen it yet?
Yep. I go there at least twice a week.
Great.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. And I still have this opinion.
All right. That's okay. But here's what the problem of the old one was. Okay. Delaware North insisted that the stairway be closed and that people had to go through that building so they could capitalize on it. All right. That was wrong. The commissioner of parks, the new commissioner, Eric, came and saw that. He made them take the barrier for the stairs down. Delaware North complained. Okay. He went to the governor. He said, Tom, ignore them. This is for the people. The building is going to be off to the other side. So when you walk up, you will have a grand vista to see the falls and stairway. Inside, and I'll tell you one of the things that I'm insisting on, and I'm getting some traction, that inside, in addition to the orientation for the area, the orientation for the falls, the trailhead for the trails, and that's why Ralph Wilson was involved. So they had to deal with Ralph Wilson also, that there is a location in there with a Niagara Falls resident being paid by the state to direct people right into the city and highlight what's in the city. So now as we improve that, I want that connectivity between the two so that we become a city with a park, not a city and then what's over that wall over there? I can't see on the other side of that wall. And if you go down there, it's hard to not admit that they have made that an open, transparent system from the city to the park. Okay, I mean, I don't think you can deny that, because if you're in the park and you turn, you can see the city, can't you,
I'm
Tom?
pretty stubborn. I'm pretty stubborn.
Well, no, I'm just
I
asking you a
know.
question. All right, well,
Hey,
maybe you need. I'm going
do
to
you,
I'm going to take a line from my cousin Vinny. Then maybe you need new glasses.
I, so do you think civics is an important thing and this is worth talking about at least? I mean, throw me a
Oh,
bouquet.
are you kidding? This is what, no, I don't mean that negatively.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is what we need. We need to be able to open discussions, knowing that there are going to be differences of opinion and how the system works. See, sometimes people don't understand the system. And in anything, whether it's government, whether it's development, whether it's private industry, there's always a system that is established. Okay, there's basic principles that have to be followed. So yes, I think your program is incredible. Okay, because it is not a me versus you, but it's a here's how I look at it. Okay, here's a different view. Now, I'm not telling you that my view should be adopted by everybody, but if it's a view that the majority wants, because remember, and I'm not talking political majority or minority. We have a majority of people that have a belief, and then we have a minority group. Okay, so between the two of them, there can't be animosity or acrimony. But unfortunately, because we are a republic based upon a democracy, it's majority rules.
Yeah.
Right. But
well, I am smarter.
Focus,
I'm smarter after 1 hour of talking to you, and that's all I want.
okay.
Really. That's what I like. I can't thank you enough for spending this time, because we're smarter for it. And we can at least discuss everything. This is fantastic. I can't thank you enough.
Well, you know, that's why when you say that anytime you call me, anytime somebody calls me, I'm there. I got nothing to hide. I'm not looking for anything. You know, I mean, you know how old I am. I'm not going to preach it, okay? But God has given me energy and health, and I will devote that to the whole region, okay? You mean we're almost an hour? Or, oh my God.
We're done, man. We're done.
Wow.
Listen, I'm done with you.
I'll come back. Let's go on, but I will keep fighting. And I'm telling you, you call me anytime. Okay. But like I said, there's times when you like my campaign. I can't tell you right now what I'm planning on doing to run next year. Okay. Because I have some strategy, but you know what the strategies are? I'll give you the basis to continue what I'm doing, to continue to be open, to continue to be transparent and fight for the people.
And I'm just going to say what I still am fuzzy about, and will be for a long time because I'm pretty dense, is that number one thing that we can all work on, because then we don't have to, disagree all the time. Not you and me, but, we have racism, we have anger, we have hate. If we were working on something like building the city in a direction, then we're all working for something and not against each other. I live in a fantasy world. That's not possible, but that's where I want to be, that we know what we're working on.
I have the same vision. Okay. Only I'm in a position where I'm sometimes trying to hold the water back or calm the water. Okay? But I'm going to give you what I see and what I know. Okay. Whether you like it or not you, Tom, but it's the reality. I'm not trying to force anybody's opinion on anything. Okay. I'm just trying to express in a civic way. Okay. What I see and what we need to do.
And forever and ever, for right now, you are on the team that can affect change. So we need to talk to you. We just need to, and you talk back, and this is fantastic. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, that's no problem. Listen, I'm excited about this because I think people need to hear what I said today. Okay. Let's take the blinders off. But if I can say one last thing, get out of your houses, go down, walk the trails. On that Riverway Trail going towards the Grand Island Bridge, they recreated a lake that had been there that's magnificent, right adjacent to the river. Okay. So if people don't see the progress, they can't complain. If they refuse to open their eyes and take the blinders off, then they can't complain.
It is beautiful. It's beautiful. Beyond words. Just people need to go there.
All right. So the next time you go, I want you to stand in the park and look at the city and see that you could actually see it. Okay.
No, I'm not going to do it because you told me to.
Or go to George Optical and get new glasses. That's all.
Assemblyman Angelo Morinelli. I have trouble calling him Assemblyman because everybody calls him Angelo. So thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. We'll do it again, I hope, right?
I'm open to you, my friend. I'm open to you. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
take care. I got to run to Lewiston for the children's fun run now. So take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.